So I'm Matt, I'm here at NAB 2012 with iZotope, and we are talking about iZotope Iris. So iZotope Iris was released yesterday. It is available from our website and from resellers, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story behind Iris before we dive right in. So people may or may not be familiar with iZotope RX, which is audio repair and restoration suite. And the thing that's good about RX is that we introduced the idea of a spectrogram, so you could see your audio in a different way. And to cut a long story short, customers started saying, we're using RX2 for sound design, we're making spectral selections, and instead of doing audio repair and restoration, we're actually using those and we're sampling those crazy sounds, and we're making new and interesting sounds for film and for games. And so we thought, why not make this a synth? And customers were suggesting that we should make this a synth, so that's exactly what iZotope Iris is. So I'm just going to launch right in. When you first load up Iris, this is kind of what you get. And I'm just going to go and choose a patch, just one of the presets. Iris comes with 500 presets and 4 gigabytes of sample content. So you'll notice immediately we have the spectrogram, just like in RX2. We have the audio and we have the waveform, and we can mix between the two. So the first thing that iZotope Iris does is it maps it across the keyboard. So I can drag any audio file, a WAV file or an AIFF file, I can just drag and drop, or I can open a new file and it will appear like this. And it listens to the file and it figures out intelligently what the root note is, and then it maps it across the keyboard. So you see here I have a keyboard, I have my sound file, and I can change how it's mapped across the keyboard, and I'm already instantly able to play some sound. And I'm just showing you a couple of the other features that I'll talk about in just a second. So this original sample sounds like this. So it's some bells in a field, wind chimes ringing. So I can already play that across the keyboard, as you'll see. So right now it's sort of a basic sampler. We have a sample mapped across a keyboard. It's figured out the root note. But here's where it gets really interesting. So just like in RX2, we have these controls right here. We have a brush control, a magic wand tool, a lasso tool, a time and frequency selection tools. So I can start making spectral selections, which I can never do in a normal sample with just a waveform. And then I can start playing those back. So you'll see now if I start playing the keyboard, So right now it's only playing the frequencies that I have selected. So I'm taking an audio file, we're looking at the spectrogram, and we are literally extracting the things that we want, and the things that we don't want are left behind, but we can even invert our selections and select only the things that we didn't select. And so that's the basic idea behind Iris, in that we can drag any sound. It could be an ambient recording, it could be a percussive instrument, it could be an animal, it could be some vocal samples. We can drag them straight into Iris, see the spectrogram, and then make interesting spectral selections and then start playing them back. But then it gets more interesting, because if you look to the right-hand side, you'll see we have this synth panel, which I can hide or I can bring back. And in the synth panel, we have normal synthesis parameters like an envelope, and we have an LFO that has the same waveforms, and you can send it to several destinations just like any other LFO. And we have some master effects like chorus, delay, and reverb. Those can be send effects as well. And what we're actually doing is not just playing these spectral samples across a keyboard, but now we're applying synthesis parameters to those. So you can think of it as RX2, but as a synthesizer. So now if I turn some of those on and I start playing, it sounds more like this. Now, just remember that came from just the sound of the bell. So that bell sample we heard at the start that sounded like this, we got that synth texture from there. So that's the first thing about Iris. But then we actually can load up to 3 audio samples at once, and you'll see I've loaded another 2 in. So we can layer 3 different, completely unique samples and do the same thing over and over again. Each sample has unique synth parameters, so these are different parameters for each sample. And so now I have 3 different samples playing, and I can get more sounds like this. And so that's actually from 3 different bell samples that I've collected, and I've made a really interesting, crazy sounds and textures. It's definitely something that's really new and exciting. It's a new way to find music in everything. We have 3 spectrograms. You can make these selections. We also have a sub view where you can load in waveforms like sawtooth waves, or you could load in like a sine wave, or we have pink noise and so on. So you can layer waveforms like you would with an oscillator and still make interesting selections there as well, and then play those back. You could also switch Iris into what we call the all view, so that you can look at all of the samples and edit them one on top of the other. And then lastly, if we have these 3 samples here and the sub view, we also have a master effects channel. So we have an envelope and an overall filter with a lot of very nice filter shapes. We have global LFO, and we have the control over the individual effects. So this is all iZotope DSP. These have been optimized from different products. So we have distortion that we took from trash and made it very specific to a synthesizer. And you can have this window as a separate window. So you can have them side by side in your session. And it's worth mentioning too, so Iris is an RTAS, it's AU, it's VST, it's VST3. You can use it on both Mac and Windows in many different host programs, DAWs, and you can use it as a standalone too. So I'm using it in Windows as a standalone here, but that's up to you, you have your choice. So that's the basic idea behind Iris. It does come, as I said, with 500 patches, 4 gigabytes of sample content. And we don't just have interesting textures that I played. We also have things like really synth leads and we have interesting synth sounds like that. The sort of leads that people might use in a club track. And then we have some keyboards and some bass tones, stuff like this. And again, we do have a lot of these really interesting pads with all kinds of textures and some. So the idea here is that we can just load any sound. It doesn't matter what the sound was, but we can extract interesting spectral things and make music from really anything. And it's a synth. It's a new way of looking at sound and working with sound. It's sound design, it's production, it's musical, and you can use it for compositions as well. And it does include, as I said, patches from all kinds of vintage synthesizers, and also sound design textures and keyboards, pianos and organs and string sounds and vocal sounds. And we also have, with the release of Iris as yesterday, we have 2 extra sample packs that you can buy. The Sounds of Glass, which is sort of glass being smashed and broken and melted, and the sounds of wood being cracked and scraped. And you can imagine those in Iris. They sound really interesting. So those are available too. And that's iZotope Iris in a nutshell. Please, you can download the 10-day trial. It's a free trial, unlimited. Download the demo, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.